Let's be real, who doesn't love Teslas? We were promised a very soon future in which self-driving cars would serve our requirements and vehicle ownership would be obsolete. Robots would swiftly and effectively deliver our orders, and we'd be able to squeeze in a few more hours of work or sleep while being escorted around. But leaving your Tesla on autopilot can be dangerous. First off, inventing the perfect self-driving car isn't that simple. The transition to self-driving or autonomous consumer cars, on the other hand, appears to have come to a standstill. Top industry specialists acknowledged in 2021 that building safe autonomous driving systems wasn't as straightforward as expected. Among them, Elon Musk said that creating the technology necessary to produce safe self-driving cars has proven more difficult than he anticipated, and we can't blame him either. Self-driving cars aren't as intelligent as the human mind. Technology, too, after all, has its limitations. Second, should you be leaving your Tesla on autopilot? More bad news arrived this week when the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, or NHTSA, revealed that Tesla vehicles were responsible for over 70% of crashes involving so-called SAE Level 2 vehicles. Some automobiles are entirely self-driving and can drive without any human intervention. Waymo One, based in Phoenix, Arizona, is a ride-hailing service that is currently testing autonomous vehicles on a test route. SAE Level 2 autonomous systems like Tesla Autopilot require human drivers to remain vigilant at all times, even when the system briefly takes over steering and acceleration. So as much as you'd like to catch those few extra hours of shut-eye, it probably won't be a good idea to do so. Oh, and self-driving cars actually cause a lot of accidents. According to a new study issued on Wednesday by a U.S. Automobile Safety Authority, over 400 incidents involving cars with partially autonomous driver aid systems were recorded by U.S. carmakers. According to the Associated Press, Tesla, which has over 830,000 vehicles on the road with driver assist programs that have partial control over speed and steering, recorded 273 collisions, accounting for roughly 70% of the total. Companies warn that drivers must always be prepared to intervene and take control of the vehicle, especially in vehicles with partially autonomous systems. The NHTSA received reports from 12 automobile companies regarding crashes involving vehicles with partially automated driving assistance, with Honda reporting 90 crashes, the second highest behind Tesla. The NHTSA required manufacturers to record crashes if partially automated systems were in use up to 30 seconds prior to the crash, which covered occurrences such as airbag deployment, pedestrian or bike collisions, or victim hospitalization. However, the research also said that a manufacturer's capacity to get real-time data on an occurrence varies and might occasionally miss unreported entirely. Also, what exactly is the mechanism behind self-driving cars? Human Factors Engineering's a multidisciplinary study that looks at how people interact with car technology. Its researchers have long warned about the dangers of autonomous driving, particularly when the system relies on the driver to compensate for technological flaws. This is the situation with what's known as the automation paradox, in which the more automated the vehicle, the more difficult it gets for people to properly drive it. One of the most serious concerns of driving SAE Level 2 vehicles is that drivers misinterpret the capabilities of the autonomous system. The problem frequently leads to risky behavior such as reading a book or napping while driving. As much as you want to complete that Stephen King book, you're gonna have to draw your attention to the road periodically. So, are self-driving cars safe? According to several experts, self-driving cars can be programmed to be safer than human drivers, with sensors and cameras watching and guiding them. These automobiles can't only detect their surroundings but also foresee what's ahead, which humans can't do. They may one day make the world a safer place by lowering the number of automobile accidents and eliminating human mistakes. However, before self-driving cars reach end users, we must go through a lengthy procedure. We need a lot of time for testing and for people to become used to the technology. Automobile manufacturers and technology firms claim to be making driving safer, but validating these claims is challenging. Tesla issues a safety report every 3 months that includes the number of miles driven between crashes when drivers utilize the company's driver assistance system, Autopilot, and the number of miles driven between crashes when they don't. These statistics consistently suggest that Autopilot, a set of technology that can steer, brake, and accelerate Tesla vehicles on its own, reduces the number of accidents. However, the figures are deceptive. According to the Department of Transportation, Autopilot's mainly utilized for highway driving, which is twice as safe as driving on city streets. Finally, some other facts about Autopilot and Tesla. Tesla has supplied data allowing a comparison of Autopilot's safety on the same types of roadways. Neither have other automakers that have comparable systems. Since 2015, Autopilot has been used on public roadways. General Motors released Super Cruiser in 2017, while Ford Ford Motor Company released Blue Cruise last year. However, publicly accessible evidence on the safety of these technologies is limited. American drivers, whether they use these systems or share the road with them, are practically guinea pigs in an experiment the effects of which are unknown. Car makers and technology firms are introducing additional car functions that they say increase safety, but these claims are difficult to verify. Meanwhile, highway and street deaths have been rising in recent years, hitting a 16-year high in 2021. It appears that any greater safety afforded by technology breakthroughs isn't compensating for poor driving judgments. GM partnered with the University of Michigan on research that investigated the possible safety advantages of Super Cruise, but determined that there was insufficient evidence to determine if the technology decreased collisions. Here's some other news you might have missed out on. First off, self-driving cars can now learn from their own memories. Unlike humans, automobiles powered by artificial neural networks have no recollection of the past and are always seeing the environment for the first time, regardless of how many times they've driven down a given route. This is especially troublesome in bad weather, when the automobile can't safely rely on its sensors. Cornell and S. Bowers, College of Computing and Information Science, and the College of Engineering researchers published 3 concurrent research papers with the goal of overcoming this limitation by giving the car the ability to create memories of previous experiences and use them in future navigation. Won't be long before robots take over the world, we fear. When the self-driving car returns to the same place, it may query the local squash database of every LiDAR point along the route and remember what it learned the previous time. The database is constantly updated and shared among cars, increasing the amount of information available for recognition. Initially, the vehicle's artificial neural network was never exposed to any objects or streets. It can learn which portions of the surroundings are immobile and which are moving things by traversing the same path several times. Slowly, it learns what other traffic participants are and what it's safe to ignore. The program can then accurately recognize these things, even on routes that weren't included in the originally repeated traversals. Oh, and China's Baidu is joining the race for self-driving cars. A self-driving cab created by internet giant Baidu Incorporated is cruising down a Beijing street with no one in the driver's seat when its sensors detect the corner of a delivery cart protruding into its path. The cab comes to a half-car-length halt. A recorded voice apologizes to passengers as the cab circles the cart. The steering wheel moves on its own. From the front passenger seat, a Baidu technician observes. Baidu is China's most visible challenger in a multi-billion-dollar battle with other autonomous car makers, such as Alphabet Incorporated's Waymo and General Motors Company's Cruise, to commercialize their future technology. In April, Baidu and a competitor, Panya.ai, acquired China's first licenses to operate cabs without a driver, but with a safety supervisor on board. Waymo began driverless ride-hailing service in Phoenix, Arizona, 18 months earlier, in October 2020. Baidu, which began as a search engine operator in 2000, has now grown into artificial intelligence, processing chips, and other technology. It claims that if autonomous cars are effective, they'll make driving cheaper, easier, and safer. Sounds like the perfect world to us. Finally, self-driving cars recently blocked the San Francisco intersection. Automobile experts and technology executives have long claimed that self-driving cars will outperform people, but that wasn't the case for a fleet of cruise cars in San Francisco this week. The company, which is majority owned by General Motors, admitted an issue earlier this week that caused some of our vehicles to cluster together. A firm official stated the issue had been fixed and no passengers were impacted, but he declined to further comment. The Cruise robo-taxis, which were obstructing multiple lanes of traffic in San Francisco, were photographed and described on Reddit and Twitter. Late Tuesday night, at least 7 Cruise cars were observed clustered near the junction of Go and Fulton Streets in the city's Civic Center area, potentially obstructing traffic both ways on one of the streets. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think cars should be left on autopilot? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.